And I know that you're probably feeling some of it anyways. The question is, are you feeling scared right now? A little bit of out of control, or maybe too controlled by others? Are you just wondering, like, what is going on in this whole world between your relationships and your jobs and literally everything that you are waking up to? What you're awake and you face the world and you go, wow, I'm so scared actually that maybe I'm paralyzed. Like you just don't know what to do. This it could be potentially a global PTSD disorder going on here. And so we've got our master spiritual teacher, GP Walsh, here with us today on The Flow from Ohm School Live. And I'm your host, student Lisa Berry. And I'm asking questions on this very, very topic about the traumatized world and how we can, you know what, actually, GP, I thought of something earlier and I want to bring this to everybody's attention. We don't need to invent something new. We don't need to create anything. We don't need to invest $1 million. Like this is, though it's a global traumatic event that we all go through and everything, we actually have something very special that we can do without changing one thing about ourselves and our lives right now. So that's what I'm going to have you focus on with all of us to give us all not just hope but actual steps, like what can we do. So let's step back in here too about the traumatized world. You asked a question and it was in the light letter, so we'll tell everybody how they can get on that in a minute. But is it possible that the entire globe is traumatized and suffering from PTSD right now?
It's not only possible, it's a fact. If you look at what the nature of a trauma is, right, and that is you confront circumstances that you can't run away from and you can't fight, you become powerless against them. That is the textbook definition of trauma. The emotional reaction that every human being does to that is to recoil, right? We feel very unsafe, and it can make for extremely weird behaviors, violence, a fundamentalism, just kind of a recoiling into this space, because life and limb are threatened. You're in fight or flight mode, and most people want to be in flight mode, but the fight mode, you see it in just conflicts breaking out all the time, anger between different kinds of hate groups, the alt right and the Antifa and white supremacists and fundamentalist Christians. You see all this entrenched beliefs of and blaming others. Those are all symptoms. Those are all the symptoms of trauma, of a traumatized soul. And that's the condition we're in. And it was already well on its way there. I mean, it was already there. In the U.S., America has been traumatized for decades. Um, uh, and and but COVID just put a bow on it. Because now, and people want to blame COVID, they want to blame the government, they want to blame all these. They don't have anybody to trust anymore. Who do you trust, right? Nobody, even the people who take the vaccine don't really trust it. They know it was pushed out early. They don't have any confidence in Pfizer. They don't have any, or J&J or anybody who makes them. They know that the corporations do not have their best interests at heart, right? And so now we're in this position having to trust people we don't trust with things, putting things even into our body that we don't understand under circumstances that that are so baffling, and problems that are so big, there seems to be nothing we can do about it. So yes, this is a trauma. This is a worldwide global trauma. Everybody is suffering from PTSD. And the first step is to recognize that is what we are in. That what you're feeling, the anguish, the anger, the intensity, the fear, the self-concern, the doubt, the confusion, those are all symptoms of trauma. And if you recognize that, you can begin to back off a bit and cut yourself some slack, and perhaps even open the door for some compassion towards yourself and others, because as I said in the note, that is what we need right now. We need large doses of love, and love doesn't have to go through any safety testing.
Oh, no, that's a quote. I think somebody write that down in the comments. You actually, I wrote, I like this one here. Oh gosh, there's a quote in that letter that I specifically love, love, love about um, transmuting fear, into love, and something that I was, often when we talk about all of these issues, when we say trauma, there's two things I would love for let's touch on. You had mentioned before that trauma is something that happens in that moment. So the trauma is experienced in that moment. It's stuck now, and now we have all this buildup, and you've just mentioned a lot of other symptoms, which I'm glad, and we're going to review some of those symptoms as well. And then when we have that symptom, what that can even lead to. Um, it's like a buildup, right? So it's not just one trauma; it's layers of trauma and layers of
Yeah.
trauma. And I had these three words that I felt like people might go through these steps of when you're traumatized and you're paralyzed, you lose your freedom. You There's no longer, it doesn't feel like you have a choice or an option to move, and so we're not free. And so when we're
Right.
not free, then we don't feel like we have a purpose anymore. We can't do our purpose. We can't step into our purpose because we're stuck. And then around commitment, how can we trust anything? You mentioned trust. So there's this lack of trust. So if we take this all the way to the back, are there any people who aren't traumatized from childhood, who have already transmuted it, who we can ask help, like with yourself and stuff, like who do we even start by asking to help us transmute our own trauma?
Well, the ones who did not become traumatized. Well, first off, everybody became traumatized. Let's just get this straight. That childhood, by its very nature, is an existential trauma, because it is not safe for any individual ever growing up to be fully themselves. And this is the trauma. You are yourself, but but you cannot be yourself, right?
Right.
So to just be your natural self, as every child does, receives some kind of pushback from the environment. So this is the existential crisis. I cannot be myself because it's dangerous. The environment, is threatening if I do, maybe mildly or maybe extremely, but I can't be anything other than myself, right? So I'm in a double bind. There's nothing I can do about that. There, you can feel the freeze even as I speak about it. You can feel, what the hell do I do, right? Well, what the nervous system does is incredibly clever. It basically buries all the characteristics that are you out of sight so nobody can see it, and creates a false persona to present to the environment. This later on is what we call the ego, or the sense of identity, but it is a completely manufactured by the nervous system. Now, we're in a very different time now, because we're all trying to do that. All of it, their nervous system, every human being on the planet is trying to create a new identity to deal with the situation. And that's why we get these extremes of behavior. Everything from fundamentalists and conspiracy theorists and purists, and they're all grabbing onto some kind of identity that is going to be functional as best as it can determine. None of these, are you. Now, I completely forgot your question.
Oh, no. It's about transmuting fear into love, but from the point of, if we are all traumatized,
Right.
doesn't mean we're all paralyzed, I guess.
Well, you are, in this fact that the more traumatized you are, the more threat there is, the less and less conscious participation you have on what's happening, and the more it's just becoming automatic. The system is just looking for anything desperately to be able to. It's a desperate attempt to come to some place where some adaptation that will survive. And this is the desperation that we're all feeling, because it doesn't matter what we into, it isn't working. None of them are working, which is why it keeps going into more and more extremes. The the to to step out of it, right, we have to first become conscious of it, right? And then make the boldest and most courageous step a human being can make. And that is just the attempt to accept one's own powerlessness in the moment.
Ooh.
Because this is what the nervous system cannot do. It cannot, it must do something to accommodate. That's its nature. It's a totally adaptable, organic machine, basically. Right? It takes a whole nother level of consciousness to go, whoa, I am completely powerless here. This is a fact. All right. I'm going to accept that. Now, the moment I do that, I have created a completely different inner relationship. I am no longer unconscious. I am no longer just reacting to circumstances wildly. I'm no longer retrenching to a particular position. I have literally come to the place where I'm seeing where I'm really at. It's not easy, it's not pleasant, but it's real. And that conscious place is the first step towards real power. Because now you're present again. Where when you're reacting, you're not there. Right? It is completely automatic.
That's worth highlighting right there, repeating and highlighting is that, in fact, when you recognize it, just by being present and not reacting is where your power is, as opposed to we think that if we can just get in front of it, we can ride a wave of a belief or modality or some information or something that we then have the power, I get best, yeah, to say to get in front of it, but it's really actually when we get a little bit like surrender and say, oof, I don't have any control here.
In control. Yeah,
That's
I am out of moves, period.
right.
This is a fact. Humanity has run out of moves. The entire system that we've developed over the last millennia has completely collapsed around us, has proved itself to be totally ineffective. And we're all sitting here in the midst of this rubble.
And
Right?
feeling traumatized. Okay.
And well, the feeling of of being traumatized is that you cannot act, you cannot run, and you cannot fight. But if I no longer need to run and fight, if I'm totally in acceptance, the trauma's over. I am now back. I am now back in the seat of mastery. That doesn't mean suddenly it's all going to, the solutions are going to appear, but they're only going to appear there, because otherwise it'll always be a rehash. Once I step into this other place of no moves, the solution has an opportunity to show itself, because there's space for your creative engagement at that point.
Yeah.
Right. Also, it's from this place where you can actually see the real cause of it,
Right.
the real causes that brought us to this, right? Because it didn't happen by accident, right? There were a million steps made by society as a whole, over the last several thousand years, that have inevitably led to this.
A question about that, making the space so that the solution will only appear in the place when we give it space. It's like, I feel like, we have to set a place at the dinner table. Otherwise the guests can't come, and they can't have nowhere to eat. Is that a place where I'm going to share this question here? Would to make the space, is tapping something that is one tool that could help us to get there?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's why I recommend it, and that's why I use it. Um, because the the effect that it has, and this is not just hearsay. This has been proven through double-blind studies, scientifically valid studies, um, that tapping, along with other kinds of energy techniques, has an effect on the autonomic nervous system. It does calm it down. Now, my personal observations have been is that what it does is it communicates a sense of safety through touch to the nervous system. And getting this information of safety, even if the nervous system is in the middle of, of chaos and distress, it will sense this additional thing in the environment. And remember, your nervous system is a completely adaptable system. its whole nature is to adapt itself to environments. When it can't do that is the trauma.
Right.
When its means for doing that, its means for dealing with it have been cut off, it can't do it anymore. It cannot adapt, which means it faces its own destruction, and now it goes into complete survival mode, right? I mean, it's the cornered animal, right? But by simply communicating through tapping, as well as through the various techniques that I use and teach, a different message is being delivered, even while you're in the midst of this, of having run out of moves. Even when all the exits are blocked, you're getting this message saying, hey, it's okay. And it's
Yeah.
getting it in a very subtle and in a very real way. And if it's coming, if the message is there, the nervous system gets it and it accommodates it, right? Which immediately takes the edge off of that desperation that puts you, which is where all the ugliness and violence comes from.
Yes. You're remind no, I'm not relating these two by any means, but to situations, and please everybody, I'd love to hear some comments and if you've experienced this, but women who are in labor or people who are throwing up, like I said, not relating them, just two examples, is if that encouragement that you're getting your back rubbed, it's okay, you can do this, you're going to be okay, or keep going, or it's this message and this touch that is it
Mm-hmm.
keeping the body not busy? We're not distracting the body. We are delivering a
No.
message of
Yes, we're
safety.
delivering a message. Yes, exactly so. Yeah,
Yeah,
it just, and even when mentally we can't do it because we don't see any way, right? Because
right.
because the cognitive mind is a rather flimsy tool compared to this other stuff, right? But it can't. The nervous system doesn't deny this. It
Right.
bypasses the mind. Matter of fact, the mind will say, "What's this is stupid." Right? Don't I mean, I've had people refuse to do it just because it looks stupid. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It
The
does.
mind,
But
absolutely. Yes, people do.
but
Yeah.
but so what? But so what? It works, right?
Yes.
It does relieve the stress, and it's been measured. It brings down the levels of cortisol. It has a physiological effect on the chemistry of the body. Um, so we don't have to understand it completely, right? We don't have to be able to explain it in every little detail. I mean, I have no idea what electricity is, but I know how to work a light switch, right?
Right. I love it. So if anybody here has done the whether it's tapping or any kind of energy work at all, we'd love to hear it. So just put it in the comments and give this video a like, because this is such a cool conversation. I'm really excited, GP, that you're here to help us with some of these. There's many ways we can transmute, fear into love. And there was a couple points again. So I mentioned earlier that you guys, there's a light letter that GP writes, and it is the show description, yes, but it offers so much. It has a little bit of lessons, a little questions, some teaching, some key points on how to do things. And so I just want to refer to some of them as we go on. But how you sign up for this light letter is by going to the website, and we just go to www.gpwalsh.com, and then you can sign up and you'll get the free ebook Angels in the Basement. And that is one that will help as well with all of these things. That was just an amazing book. So on, I love that you had mentioned, I said in the beginning that a lot of times we think, wow, global trauma. It's too big for me. I can't do anything. I'm just me. I'm too little. I need to, like I said, they think, what can I invent? I need a new system, or I need to have all this money to do something. But you know what? There's many ways that we can do it. You mentioned here, I put my little bullet points here. What about when you mention every time you sacrifice a desire to benefit the whole, you have lit the fire of love? I like that. And right now people are going, wait, I'm traumatized and you want me to sacrifice. So what's up here? It's not fair. So what can we talk a little bit about that? Sacrificing a desire to benefit the whole.
Well, sure. Remember that the energy of trauma is withdraw.
Mm.
It is constriction. It is a moving inward. It is towards selfish endeavors. Me above all. Me first. Every man for himself. So every time we are willing to lay that down and take on the benefit of all, we have transmuted that fear into love. And we have found the solution. That is the solution. Right? When all of my fears get turned outward towards helping others, towards thinking of the whole and not just me, I have found this. That is the solution. Because the trauma is always self survival. But if I can convert that into from the I into we, that same energy now begins to move outward, and all of that energy that has gone into self preservation goes into us preservation, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger until we're not satisfied until it includes the whole world.
All right, I'm going to really go deep on this one. So, what do we do? And I know it's a selfish version, but I have to bring it up. What if we do that? Exactly what you said. We think, you know what? I've gone in and I need to turn it outward. I want to move from I to we. And then the little mind kicks in and it says, but wait, if you do that and you end up helping them, what if they abandon you? What happens if I give everything and I'm there for the we, but nobody else is doing it? And they either leave me once I give them everything I have, or they don't do the same and I'm the only one. Where do we go with that fear?
Take the risk. Take the risk. Somebody's got to do it.
That was bold.
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah.
How do we,
I mean,
how do we,
if wars are going to stop, somebody's got to take the last hit.
that's so true. Can we survive? So say we do that and we take the risk and it's not, we truly, they're not ready. They don't take the risk. Are we going to be okay?
Maybe, maybe not.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's looking for this guarantee, right?
Yes.
This isn't a business deal, right? Okay, what's the difference then? I say, okay, I will. I'll start thinking about we, as long as you keep thinking about me too, right?
Right.
That is exactly what we have. It's all negotiated. It's business transactions. It's not love, and that's one of the ways that has failed, and that it is time to abandon because it simply doesn't work. I mean, Christ speaking on the Sermon on the Mount, he was just very unequivocal about it. He says, you turn the other cheek, period. So forgive him how many times? 7? They said 7 times. Is that enough? I mean, they were looking for a rule. Okay, can I forgive him 7 times, and then I can beat the snot out of him? And he says 70 times 7, right? In other words, there is no limit, right? This is a way of being in the world, and unless somebody's willing to be that way in the world, even if it gets you crucified, right, how else is it going to happen? And let's not forget that Christ literally lived that out to the point where he did not even impute guilt to his accusers and his murderers, his executors, right? His influence is with us in mass 2,000 years later. Yeah, he paid a personal price for it, right? But he was willing to do it. That's love, right? We celebrate the hero who's willing to go out there and die for their country, right?
Yes.
Right. How about the willingness to sacrifice something modest, right?
Yeah.
How about the willingness to live for your country, for your fellow man, not necessarily die? I mean, we don't think these things through because we're immediately the mind is always going to go back to, yeah, what about me? But this is the time we say, well, fuck that. It's too late. It's too late to think like that.
Mm,
It's too late to just hoard the money, go into your gated compounds, and let everybody out, let the refugees and everybody die, and hope the climate change doesn't come to your door, or the marauding the marauding hordes that want your. It's too late for that. Right?
mm,
The whole model isn't going to work anymore. Society as we know it is done.
mhm,
And we will either build another period of absolute glorious love and understanding and cooperation, or it will be barbarism.
mhm.
Choice is ours.
If yeah, I think I still have this sense of division in my mind. Like, okay, so if it goes to barbarism, then I'm not going to be barbaric, but maybe somebody else is. So then I'm still in my mind going, so what do I do then? How do I get through it? And maybe that's what other people. I'd love to hear if you guys are feeling this, like thinking, okay, well, I've got a handle on this, but they don't. The bad guys are still going to do the bad stuff, and can my good stuff truly transmute the bad stuff? I think, yeah, you're back to the guarantee here again, VP. Um,
Yeah,
that was a
there
good
is
word.
none.
That was a very good word. Yeah. I didn't realize
there
that,
is.
yeah, we're looking for that.
Yeah, we are. We're looking for some kind of deal, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no deal to be had, right? Right? Or you could try to make a deal, but you have no money.
Right.
You've got
No
nothing the
currency
other
yet.
side wants, right? So there's no currency to work with here. We've run out of currency.
Is love?
So it's really a matter of choice. It's love, right? I mean, I have a choice. I can love now or not, and
Right.
I
Oh,
can learn to love at a level that I've never even imagined was possible before, right? And really put love to the test, or I can continue to make it, something I talk about in church and the like. But when push comes to shove, I really don't care.
right. Yeah. Compartmentalizing love. Some
Yes.
of the other things that you mentioned here, and I like this, is every attempt to find common ground. I'm jumping to the bullet points if you guys followed. I posted it not only, well, actually, did we do it in the group? I'm trying to think. I know I posted it on my page. But yeah, you guys got to get the light letter. Every attempt to find common ground. Here's that, if we're traumatized and we're experiencing this PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and we've retreated and we're coiled up, and we think, okay, I got to reach for love here. I've got to find love, and I've got to. Is it that I'm finding love so that I can attempt to find common ground, or am I attempting to find common ground to experience and feel my love?
Well, the act of attempting to find it is love.
Oh, okay,
I mean, what else would motivate you to even want to do that? Otherwise, you wouldn't look for common ground. You'd look for advantage.
right.
So remember, love is a motivation. It's not necessarily a feeling, right? Oftentimes, it doesn't feel all warm and fuzzy when you're doing what's loving.
Oh, very good. Yeah, parents experience that one.
All the time. Yeah. If you've ever worked at a soup kitchen, and
Mhm,
served homeless food, yeah, doesn't feel like love, right?
mhm.
Right? It doesn't have that kind of wonderfulness about it. You're just doing what needs to be done, because it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? Because it needs to be done.
This I have this when I have to take care of, kitty cats or animals. I mean, you have to do things like I really don't like cleaning eye goop out or giving pills or, whatever it is, but it's something that you have to do. Or when you have to tell your children to, go to bed at a certain time for their own good. It's kind of
Yes.
that doesn't feel good, but it is love. And so, ooh, this is a good question. That would be difficult, I think, for someone who's not in an awareness point and conscious to even recognize that as love. How can we do we have to become conscious and aware to recognize that it's love, or can we recognize that it's love, play around with the idea, maybe tap on it, and then see it?
Well, the, the only reason you tap on it or even play around with it is because some consciousness has already emerged. If there's no consciousness there, it will be the definition of love according to your tribe. And the definition according to the tribe is always limited to my tribe, right? What benefits me and my group. And that's a mutual deal because we're a pack, we're keeping each other safe, and the like. That this kind of love is got there are no boundaries anymore. The tribe is the world. The tribe is everyone. This is what we're being invited to embrace. The entire world is our family now, right? Because the entire world is included in this global meltdown that we're experiencing, with just untold wars and economic disaster, and the climate crisis, which we may have some climate deniers here, but the evidence is overwhelming. We are running out of time, very really running out of time. It is not a joke, and we are doing it, and the systems we have created are doing it, and it affects everyone, even those who think they're not going to be affected by it. It will touch it already is, right? There are already extremes in temperatures and fires, and we're seeing climate refugees, right? This is just the beginning, right? And shifts in the climate also create the opportunity for new viruses, new strains of microorganisms and the like. Because I mean, it's like we have to take responsibility and recognize that we really are all in this together. And when that happens, all of the incredible innovation and resources that we have, which are now going into making, iPhone 13 or whatever the hell it is, all that intelligence can be put to use doing what we really need to be doing, which is taking care of us all.
Yeah, a lot of misdirection, that's for sure.
Yes.
I think the big, like, when me, Lisa, floating around, hear these things, I do get overwhelmed for that second, and then I try to recenter myself rather quickly, because I know it can get out of hand really quickly, and it does mean that I have to set up some walls and boundaries of about what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, who I'm talking to, what my space is like, even if it means that I think of nothing. I'm not thinking the opposite of them. I'm not thinking of joining that. I'm literally just I wouldn't say paralyzing or numbing, but it is retreating. Is this helpful, just to recenter ourselves, at least, to detox or clear the space, and to have discernment of what to then put back in there, which is love?
Well, yes, of course. It's not, but we can't make it we can't make it a this or that kind of thing. We can't make it, well, I've got to love myself first. I've got to take care of myself first. I've got to recenter myself first, because it's an endless process. And that's a wonderful way in which the egoic mind can keep you small, keep you withdrawn, and keep you from reaching out and giving the help that you can. Right? Yeah, so it works. It's an integral flowing system
Mm.
in which taking care of others and taking care of myself is a continuum, and you can't really tell where one ends and when the other begins, because that separation between self and others breaks down in love.
Mm.
Right? It
Yeah.
doesn't exist in love, right? And so, as you know, I'm an enormous proponent of inner work and self inquiry, right? But to what end? The end is to break down the walls, right, that have us living in this little cage of fear. And the opposite of fear is love. As that breaks down, our natural exuberance flows outward. It has to. But we can also help liberate ourselves just by making ourselves do some act of kindness and
Mm,
experiencing the feeling that comes from that, because it's a moment of self-forgetfulness. And the ultimate self-inquiry is to forget the self, is to lose touch with the egoic mind, which has never been who you were in the first place. We're not redeeming the ego, we're transcending it.
mm,
We're going beyond to find that what is beyond the ego is the universal self, aka love.
mm. I like that it's this whole conversation has come to be about, uh, boundless, not boundaries. And yes, taking responsibility, but not as a soul thing, but as bigger than the globe. It's more so. It's just everything. And oh, and actually, I kind of thought about that for a second. We discussed, when we were doing the women's one, the queen and the goddess, and then the masculine. We have the riverbank being the masculine energy, and then the
Hmm.
river, the flow being the feminine. Right now, we need to be a riverbank for the world's flow, so that it has a bit of structure. Well, are we creating structure? Well, yeah, that's a question. Are we then responsible to create structure with removing the boundaries?
Um, Structure. Yes, I mean, we can't. If you just completely remove everything, you end up with chaos, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the structure has to emerge. Structure is secondary to the flow, right? The river cuts the riverbed because it's the river that knows where it's going, right? And the riverbed is cut in service of that direction. And it's shifting and changing all the time. Structures come and go. One of the big mistakes we've made in our model world is that we've turned the structures, we've made them sacrosanct. So our current economic system, which is neoliberalism, um, is sacrosanct. It's the way it has to be, right? So we've basically made ourselves slaves to our own creation,
Mm. Ah.
right? And of course, those who most benefit from this particular form are the most vehement about saying this is the way it has to be. And we made it. None of this has to be the way it has to be. And structures should be put in place for as long as they're useful and then dismantled afterwards. They should be in a constant state of flux. It should never be the same. There's no such thing as a sacred structure, as a sacred form, a sacred kind of organization. Nothing sacred. They they all must serve the interests of human beings and the general good. And as long as they do that, they get to stay.
Mm.
When they don't do that anymore, they have to go. And this is really this is the struggle the world is going through. The structures that are in place do not serve humanity any longer. Right?
I
If they
that
if they ever did.
Yeah, I think that was so helpful for me. I felt my nervous system immediately just calm down and settle down right there, because that, to me, what my ears and my soul heard was, wow, wait a second, what we've been living by, the structure. I think we all think it had to be that way. Like you said, oh my gosh, that was so perfect for me to hear that. So don't be afraid of the structure falling or breaking or changing. That's okay. It's supposed to. And
It's
that
supposed
made me
to.
really quite calm and happy all at the same time. Because I was like, oh, wait, I'm coming out of my paralysis. It's okay that that's not gonna work anymore. It's supposed to change.
That's what's
And
supposed
I
to
think,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
that's right. Because life is constantly moving and changing, right? The structures, if they aren't adapting, right, they die. So
mm,
they are the form that has to be taken, and because everything is changing enormously, human consciousness is changing, technology over the last 50, 60 years. I mean, just mind blowing, right? The structures haven't kept pace. Education hasn't kept pace. Economics hasn't kept pace. None of these things. They all operate on a world that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
and then are just trying to fight to make us still fit, and nobody does, right? The world isn't that anymore. End of story.
I wondered, I'm gonna ask everybody here to leave a comment if you don't have to share what it is, but just if you have this experience, 'cause I know we all have, when something has happened and it rocks your world and you think, "Oh my gosh, maybe your house is gonna be sold because you're a renter. Maybe it burned down. Maybe you got fired. Maybe you got into a car accident. Like maybe a relationship ended. All these things that you thought were so traumatic, but in fact, the breaking down of that very structure, that routine, that belief system that you were living by was the best thing that it could ever happen to you. It allowed you to experience something new, to grow, and just looking back. So if we can have, is it that we need to just trust that that is what's happening as we surrender, or is that still manipulating a little bit, or is that just at least it's good to have trust, is it not, in our hearts, like just to say, I trust this.
Well, yes, it's just that what do we trust in? If you trust in the structures, you're screwed because, yeah,
Don't come to
and yeah, but i- the trust and surrender comes through from the recognition of the truth as it is, recognizing things are the way they are. It is impermanent. All structures will come crashing down, right? And we can either dismantle them reasonably by being conscious and ahead of the game, or they will collapse and there's nothing we can do about it. If you realize that that is the nature of life, there is nothing you can do about it, and you can stop putting energy into trying to maintain things that are eventually going to fall apart. You have now come to the place, you have surrendered to truth, you've surrendered to life as it is, and you are now flowing in the Tao. It is our resistance to this that makes us want to hold on to things, hold on to attitudes, hold on to belief systems, right? So, for crying out loud, in the West, we subscribe to a religion that was obsolete in the Bronze Age, which right, 6,000 years later, and we're still trying to live under the regimen of this wrathful idiot warrior god, and thinking we're going to like be able to function in this world. I mean, it's the height of insanity, but this is what we do. We get so attached to these things because we can't just face the simple truth that it's all impermanent. It's all going to change. The only thing that isn't impermanent is you. Let go, flow with the river, and be happy, or fight the river and get pummeled.
Yeah, and very tired. Because
Very tired.
very tired.
Very tired.
I will take this opportunity for recess. My recess bell there. And I think for today's show, because we have been speaking about tapping and energy systems and how to provide or allow safety to be experienced, to be felt, so that we can have that place of calm and allow the nervous system to adapt to a new structure, a new system, and just escape the belief that we're supposed to be permanently there. So I think, GP, I would like to invite people to. I could think for me, this is to be the best invitation I could make. Is GP does the yes, he does the EFT, so the tapping, but it's energy work. And I know that as we each, if you become a patron, which is only $15 US a month, we have an organized area for you, which you can really track down those. Thank you so much. They got the little link right there, gpwalsh.com/patron, and not Patreon, patron. And it is much more organized, so you can find the energy techniques videos and tap along and hear what to say, what to feel, give you ideas. I love them when you do them, GP, because it really allows me to flow with them, and my own things will come up, what I need to. And then
Yes.
from there, when you are a patron, GP does a monthly session with you guys anyways, so that you have your own interaction with GP. If you're not already a one-on-one student teacher, then it gives
Yeah.
you an opportunity to participate within a group. And so I'm going to do that invitation. I think, you know there's tons of videos, and if you go to the sat songs on Sundays, which we did change time, I would like to make that announcement as well during recess
Yeah,
here.
that's right.
So 1 hour earlier than it has been. So if you're Eastern, it's 2 p.m. Eastern. I couldn't tell you any other times. If you have to tell me, we can put the times there, but it is 1 hour earlier than it has been.
At 7 p.m. UTC
Okay,
or
perfect.
GMT if you still go by the old form. Yeah.
Yeah, so we welcome you to all of these. So first step is to sign up for your light letter, which is just by going to the website. You'll track it down there, so gpwalsh.com. Then secondly, to become a patron for 15 US a month, gives you all the organization and the group setting. And then number three is to know that satsang is an hour earlier. So that's
Yeah.
our
Well, also in the patron, the patron thing, what I've been doing, and over the next couple of months, we'll be focusing a lot on EFT and tapping. And so I will be releasing all new videos to the patrons first. So they'll
oh,
get them like a week before everybody else. Also, the excerpts that I'm doing from the satsangs, I'm putting in there first, just to, as a little bonus to help me to, you know, basically cover the expenses of all of this, which is the real way. Instead of having donations like on Patreon, and they got more of it than I did, um,
yeah.
I just decided to set up my own. Yeah,
A subscription type thing. It's a big
yeah.
thank you. We so appreciate it, and it's nice to be able to, it's a lovely reward as well, because then we're able to take the time to organize things and really, highlights. Like when we're doing the shows here, there's like some highlights, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I really need that one, because that for me was a shift. So that really caught me. So we invite you to all these beautiful things. I mean, the website's just fun just to poke around anyway, so please come there anyways. But I will end recess and
Class, class.
yeah, back to the flow here, homeschool live. And I would take this time now just to read through any of the comments or questions, because this was a real human, a very human topic. It's everybody gets involved in this one. So I'm just going to go from a little bit of the beginning there. Was there any questions? Actually, we say good morning to everybody, good afternoon, good evening, and say hello to everybody. And happy with the topic. Mark is sharing, as a system, capitalism is a dehumanization of who we are. Love has no place in the system, okay, unfortunately. thank, thank you, Mark.
Yep,
And
it's true. It is. Yeah.
we are out of moves. Yes. And, so when I first hear that, we are out of moves, it scares me. But then to know, okay, wait a second, if I'm out of moves, the one move is to surrender and to
Well, what else can you do? Right. This is what allows us to have the moment of consciousness. It can be a huge breakthrough. That's like, all right, there isn't anything I can do. I'm completely at the mercy now of circumstances, and yet I'm still here. Why does this feel so good? there's a there's a relief in it. There's a release in it, right? Because this drive to fix things, to control, is pure ego, and at some point the ego gets broken open when it runs out of moves, and you get a connection to you, that you, which is beyond the ego, which is beyond just fixing things, figuring things out, changing and making, it's there's another space inside it. It's a whole other dimension of being that we never come in contact with, because we're forever in do mode, we're forever in problem solving mode. But what happens when you can't, you're out of moves and you can't solve this problem? It is beyond what you can solve. And then when you look at it, the problems that we face right now, humanity faces, are beyond what humanity is capable of right now. We have to become something else.
yeah.
What we have done and built and created it simply doesn't work. Now what?
Yeah. In and you said, earlier about taking, I was talking about abandonment, how you have to take this you just have to take the risk. I'm such an animal person, like, that's my little heartstring there, and so I had met this woman who had a lot of cats, like 50 cats, and I was gonna help her, and I thought, "I can handle this," but it was beyond my financial needs, it means it was beyond my heart means, it was beyond, like, just all of this, and I thought it was really difficult because I had to surrender and walk away, but knowing going, "Well, who's gonna help her?" Like, but that system was crashing, and I needed to stop controlling and saying I could try to or do this because then, she was gonna rely on
Yeah.
me, and you
Yes.
know, it was this it was actually the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do in my life because I was in my ego mind and my heart mind, I was walking away from 50 cats. I was killing 50 cats. I might as well have been, right, in my mind. And,
Yes.
and I they didn't die. And something else completely different happened at the end. I would never have even put that together what happened. But there was this, release. I can't explain that release either. Just, first of all, that pain that you have to, the trauma that I experienced.
Hmm.
And then in the end, it did work out. Just so everybody knows here, it did work out really well. I don't want to traumatize anybody. And there was some casualties along the way. And that was what happened. It wasn't like all super rainbows, unicorns, happy cats, but there was a new system had to be created. It was no longer
Had
what
to be.
had to be. And so,
It had to be. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, trying to cram it in 50 cats into the old system. It wouldn't work. No human being could take care of that. No human being should,
right.
right? Yeah. And the further we step back, well, why in the world are there 50 stray cats? Oh my goodness. And we start you keep stepping back and back and you begin to see the causes, the underlying causes of these things. Right.
Mm,
And maybe if we get back to the actual underlying causes, we'll find we do have the power to change it. It's very difficult when something has extrapolated in all sorts of different dimensions, and what in fact is a simple problem has now become so exacerbated that we're sitting here trying to pick leaves off of this tree. Right? Go to the root. Where's this all coming from? And where it's coming from is a complete lack of self-inquiry. It is a lack of self-examination. It's the acceptance of certain assumptions about us and humanity and the way we should be and the way things should be. There's an underlying value system behind all of this, which is the source of it all.
mm,
Right? And we get to that, we will not be powerless because you can adapt that. You can rid yourself of that value system very easily,
mm. Ooh,
and very easily. Yeah.
I
And in so doing, you become the catalyst by which it can be eradicated from human consciousness in general. But human consciousness is a collection of us all. So when you eradicate something from yourself, you have eradicated it to a certain degree from all of human consciousness. Right? We don't need a political movement. We need a movement of awakened individuals that will hit a critical mass, and that critical mass is not huge.
yes, that felt good to hear that you can rid yourself of a belief system. That is possibly one of the most powerful things in today's show, I think, because maybe that is the very thing that was holding somebody in trauma, that was keeping them stuck, holding them, keeping them paralyzed. And I like hearing that, you can rid yourself of a belief system, and it is through self inquiry, which I love. And of course, you can GP is a master spiritual teacher. This is what you do. You help guide people through self inquiry and point the way. So that's again another
Yeah.
invitation. Ah, this was a big topic. It was,
Yeah, I mean, I spiritual. We tend to reduce spirituality to cute memes and platitudes and the like, and then it has no balls when it comes to facing the real world. It collapses, right? And, a lot of these cute little new age philosophies just collapse when they're put under stress, right? I mean, we have to be powerful. We have to love is not love is not fine china. It doesn't sit up on the shelf and you just bring it down at special occasions and the kids don't get to play with it. I mean, it's earthy. It's down in the weeds. It's down in the mud. It's like it gets down there where Jesus, didn't hang out with the nice people.
Right. Yes. Yeah. We're giving a new look to spirituality, that's for sure. And it's important to recognize this, to not think that they're just in robes and white robes without a speck of dirt on them.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. White robes and angelic beings and great light, and that never touched by anything. And people really believe that. People believe that Jesus is going to come back and make everything okay and get rid of all the bad people and stuff like that, which gives them a very nice excuse to continue living the irresponsible life they're living, and feel justified about it.
Yes. So this is a very different point, a very different point of, oh, I know. The word you said, I like that you said about stepping back and back and back, and you get to see a different view. And maybe you're up close looking at a leaf, and then you see the branch, and then the trunk, and then oh look, there's the root system. Um, that
Yes.
this the feeling of stepping back to take a broader look was it made me feel like, oh, that's a nice way of surrendering. It Can we say that? Because
Well, it is. Yes. It's a surrender is not acquiescence. It's not resignation.
right. Yeah.
Sur- the only thing that you should ever surrender to is the truth.
Mm.
Period. And of course, the truth kind of holds all the cards. So surrendering it is just kind of a no-brainer, right?
You win. If you do, you
you,
win.
you win. Yeah, you win. You're the all right. Game over, right? So at that point, surrender isn't an act of will. It's an act of. It's the inevitable fruit of wisdom. You
Mm.
see it as it is, right? And you just very naturally surrender. This is the truth. Okay, this is the truth. Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to fight with it.
That
That
feels
would-
so good. I think that was important to have that properly defined. Yeah, a new definition. I think that's what actually has happened in the world for many things is that we are using the wrong words and language for things. We are not understanding what things are. And
yes.
that is so beautiful. I would love to see if you guys like that. Wonderful. Did that help you with redefine surrender and feel differently about it? We'd love comments here. This is a place that, yes, this is the flow. Yes, we're doing a show. It's not the same as when GP has the classes and workshops, and it's not the same as that song clearly either. We have our topic and our theme, which when you're on the light letter you'll
Mhm.
get to know what it is. But we do get your comments and we really appreciate them. It helps us to decide too and feel what's going on, what is needed for the next show, because we are here every Tuesday, and it's whatever comes up, and GP is here to teach. That's what he's here for. He loves to do this. I love asking questions. I love the aha moments too, so I get a super benefit. But we absolutely, yeah, so subscribe to the YouTube channel, get onto the light letter, give us our little thumbs ups because we know that you're enjoying it. We are so enjoying being here with you. And GP, this was like just so helpful for us to first have the awareness that the world is traumatized right now, and we
Yes.
absolutely can do something about it because we need to be or do or have not one other thing than where we already are, which is
Yes. Love.
well, thank you so much, GP. This has been a super pleasure. We went places I wasn't expecting, so I liked it. And thank you everyone for being here with us. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday on the flow from Home School Live. We're still live.
Yeah, I know. For some reason, it's giving me errors.
Oh, you know why? Maybe because we're supposed to go for the hour. So we have another minute.
No.
Just wants to keep us here.
Yeah. Not yet. Okay. Yeah, it
Hang
just
on.
wants to keep us here.
I'll have a sip of my tea
Yeah.
for everybody.
We'll have a sip of tea while we're sitting here waiting for waiting for the broadcast. It's not going to end. So here we are. we're a captive audience.
Oh,
we're, the audience is captive. We're captive.
that's cool.
Um,
Well, they can hear a little
y-
after chat. That was the one thing I really wanted to bring up was the abandonment. That was the that was my thing I
mm,
sprung on you. Said, "Oh, I'm gonna weave in something here," and I really appreciate that you said it the way you did. I could have padded it differently, and I'm glad I got the answer that I did because that was so bold. Take the risk. There you go.
yeah, well, somebody's got to, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
nice.
mean, we have to be willing to, love is risky.
Yeah. Well,
Love is risky. It's not. There's no guarantees in love.
yeah. Yeah.
This isn't a deal. This isn't a contract. It's not negotiated by lawyers. Huh?
Yeah. The
You,
context in which that came up, I'm so excited to share that response. I think it's going to help. Yeah, it puts everything at ease. You're not waiting for the guarantee. You're not having any expectation on your own end or the others.
correct.
Whoever it is. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, obviously we have our hopes. We love because we want to have a particular result, right? Of course, that's going to be there. That's just part of being human. But if it's always assessed from that point of view, then
Yeah.
it's a business deal, and a business deal is not love, right? Love
Right.
is risky. It's dangerous. It's
It
you're
doesn't always feel
exposed.
good.
You,
You're
you're
right.
you're 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 vulnerable. But it's my deepest belief that there's something in us that responds to love.
Mhm.
That the heart responds to the heart. And I could be completely off, and I could be a complete fool, but I'm certainly going to be a fool in this regard, rather than just assuming that selfishness and competition, which is the neoliberal model, right? The humans are basically selfish beings. We're always motivated by ourselves. Love has absolutely nothing to do with it. We'll always look after our own
Mhm.
first. And if that's really the case, well, man, take me out now. I mean, humanity, if that's the case, if that's as far as we've gotten, humanity does not deserve to go on.
Mm.
What's
Yeah.
the point? Animals are better than that.
Yeah, yeah. When you said about the business deal, that's so interesting and perfect because a lot of times, so it's the number one thing I've always, whenever I've heard other people, even on TV, if you hear it or in stories, and they say, well, they've been married for or together for whatever for 25 years and they gave them all that time. I'm like, yeah, but you don't get anything back from it. You don't only and be like you said, you can be hopeful that that you'll grow old together and take care of one another but it's not wasted. It's not like, okay, well, now that it's over, it's just wasted. It's you had what you had and it was there and it was what it was and now it's different. The structure changed.
Welcome, welcome to life. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our expectations that it's supposed to be this perpetual bliss, and everything's supposed to be wonderful all the time. People aren't supposed to change. I mean, it's just totally irrational, right?
Yeah,
It's like, if you really understood it, it has nothing to do with that. Then you would make every moment what you want the moment to be.
exactly.
You'd
Exactly.
actually take responsibility for the moment, right?
Yes. Yes,
And you
I
wouldn't be
totally
waiting
agree.
25 years and saying, I didn't get what I wanted. I mean, you'd be 25 minutes in and you'd be like, what's going on, right?
Right, and that's with friendships, that's with your career, that's with life. It's with life, it's from
With
what you expect of the
everything.
world. Yes. So always show
Yes.
up as love, because then yeah, that was a big one. That was good. Wait, this is net I don't know what to do. What
This is so weird. I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's doing the same thing. Every time I click on it, it just says you can't stop it. So I
so
guess
you
we
don't
could
wanna
just leave
lose.
the studio, and
Okay.
eventually it'll just get cut off at some point. Yeah.
Well, we'll
So
say our goodbyes then, and you guys will just see us a blank screen possibly. Okay.
you'll just see a blank screen for a while, and until you all get bored enough with that.
Great.
And
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
God,
We'll
this is
we'll see you
weird.
next week. Bye,
All
GP.
right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.